Websites that, like, okay, you don't like it, or these reviews are weird. Like, there was a review Adam Sessler had when X-Play was just starting out, I think, for I think it was either like the new Doom or the new one of the or the new Quake that was coming out for the 360 when the console first started coming, when it just got out
way back.
Way back in the day, and we think of Adam Sessler. Okay, he's this very well-spoken, thoughtful, insightful individual, and even if you don't agree with his reviews, you can at least respect him for being a very intelligent person. And then there was like that review. It was like Doom 3 or 4 or Quake 3 or 4, where it's just like they're talking about the game, and it was like, okay, it's kind of a comical review, and then he goes, wow, everything looks kind of good from here. And then you see there's a video of him in first-person view looking into a mirror in, like, a bathroom. And then he jumps, and the jumping mechanic looks really weird because, like, the player avatar kind of rolls his knees under himself really weird and goes, yeah, but I jump like a retard. And I wonder if, like, he actually wrote that, or if he was told to say that by the writers, or whatever the case may be. That's going to follow him forever, like, because like that's out there now in the ether, and so, like, even though we think of him as like, okay, this guy who's very usually very pragmatic and very encompassing and holistic about his opinions, are now just like, okay, he in his earlier days he was not as educated on the matter.
Yeah, it was. It's one of those things where you put yourself out there, and you're always kind of it's sometimes it'll haunt you, or maybe it won't. Or if you look back on it, it's kind of like a family photo album. You just look at it, it's like, man, what was I thinking? Yeah, it's just a part of growing up. They always kind of look back on things and say, I could have done that a little differently, but I was young. I learned from my mistakes, so just gotta move on from that.
Mm-hmm. It is also really weird how it bothers me to some extent how gaming websites will either give a game a good or a bad review, and then later they'll put on either like the worst or best of the year list or the worst or best of the genre list. Like the whole God Hand thing with IGN, where IGN just tore it apart, and then later they say it's like, oh, it's one of the best beat 'em ups of all time. It's like there's no consistency with that. Like, how do you represent a website that doesn't even take your review into consideration? Like that, I know it's not what Destructoid does, but I was just wondering, like, okay, is there any other websites like IGN who do that? Like, I'm sure there are, like GameSpot and Kotaku and Polygon.
Yeah, they've had. I mean, there's been sites that had their kind of. They're kind of just very, attacking a certain game and reviews, and it's just all, I guess it's all based on the reviewers. Because there's always different reviewers they have for those sites, so it's not, I guess for that time though, it's not really, if you look at it from the outside, it's just like just that particular writer's opinion that's being expressed, and they're being, hired by a certain website. I wouldn't consider their particular review a reflection of what the entire site thinks, but I guess sometimes that kind of goes into that certain case there where people would say that, because there's been, I mean, definitely that infamous, well, not really infamous, but the one of the other kind of one-sided reviews of Deadly Premonition from IGN was like a 3, and then and you had Jim Sterling go, "Fuck you, everybody." He gave it a 10 out of 10. I guess it's just a whole matter of that particular reviewers or opinions. So I don't take them wholeheartedly to fact sometimes, and it also, I mean, I respect reviews even though if they're not positive, at least that they back it up. I'm not just one that I'm not one that really likes reviews that just say that it's bad and really don't give a reason why. Those particular reviews, but if they can give a good cohesive reason why they don't like it, then that's fine. And sometimes they have reviewers play certain games that they're not really into. I guess I don't know. I guess just sort of to get an idea of. I guess there's some reason for it, but I don't know. Like if you have a guy who plays fighting games, play an RPG, and then I don't know what they're. I guess they're trying to make it seem like trying to make a review better fairly. I guess I don't know, but it's always just a matter of opinion in the end.
Very, very true. And on that same token, I do wonder about the argument of, like, okay, if somebody liked one of the reviewers, they like playing platformers more than a first-person shooter, are there criticisms or compliments less valid than somebody who's already well-versed with first-person shooters? Like, if somebody didn't like BioShock Infinite and they play a lot of turn-based RPGs, does that mean, like, oh, you just don't get it, you're not a part of this situation? I mean, is that...
It's more of a matter of taste, I think. I think to counteract that, you have to have both sides of the coin there. One who plays a certain genre and one who plays that similar genre. Just kind of read off both of those reviews and then kind of really decide for yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely, I agree with that. And one of them that really got my attention was the Devil May Cry review, where you had Jim Sterling, praising the game, and then people were just saying, "Oh, Jim's opinion doesn't really count. He doesn't play. He wasn't a big fan of the original Devil May Cry, so his opinion just isn't valid." And it's just like writing that off, I feel, is just as harmful as somebody just not really reviewing it in the right state of mind at all. Where it's just like, okay, you're just writing off their review just because of the fact that you don't think they appreciate it as much as you do in terms of the genre you love?
I don't know. I think people review. I understand why reviews are there, but I personally, if it's someone that I particularly kind of follow in this hemisphere of gaming, I'll take the time to read the reviews and see what they think, because I'm always curious on what other people that I do follow in kind of the gaming culture, like Adam Sessler or Jim Sterling. I'm always curious of what they think on a certain game. So it's just I always see it that if you're unsure about it, I guess you would wait off until it gets low in price, a certain game, or rent it and kind of decide for yourself. I feel the same way with movies. Like you always hear rumors on, this movie's good and this movie sucks, and you're always thinking, I'm not sure if I should watch this, but it's for me, and it's always just I might as well, if you're curious about it a lot, might as well just check it out and kind of decide for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the think about it, like, now we have we've come a long way in a short amount of time in terms of the media we now consume, because we now have Netflix, we have we have like directly delivered games, or we can go to Redbox, or and immediately get out a video game or a movie, and we're just so well versed in the language of entertainment now that we have absurdly high standards, I think. And one of them that I did see kind of that took off was the Man of Steel movie, the new Superman movie. And I was looking on Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic before, and it's been getting like the 55 to 65 sort of area of average reviews. And then I just like, oh man, this is gonna be crap. It's gonna be mediocre, only hinting out how great a good Superman movie could be. But I went into it and I was really, really pleased. I was surprisingly delighted at how they portrayed Superman and the character arc that they gave him, and a few surprises along the way. And also a few surprises includes how brutal some of the fighting scenes are, because they like, Kryptonians are the big bads, and trying to invade the Earth. Not really invaded, but you'll find out once you watch the movie. And then they engage some of the military in fighting, and they turn some of the guys into tomato paste. It is like, not just like, oh, he got punched really hard. It's like, oh, he just got turned into a hamburger. It's quite brutal. And I'm like, wow, how the hell did he get away with this in a PG-13 movie?
It's PG-13. Yeah, I like that they, don't go the safe route with some of those type of kills, because like in PG-13 movies you never see blood when they get shot, but at least with this one it kind of makes sense, because if it's like Superman punches you in the face, you're not just gonna go flying out of the orbit, or you're gonna be obliterated like a bird, like that bird that got hit by that baseball in that one baseball game, and it'll go poof.
That's basically what happens a few times in the movie, where just an explosion of feathers in this case, where it's really well done, and and then the reviews, I was just like really, really surprised, like why did everyone hate this movie? And then just looking back through IMDb comments, I know I shouldn't, I'm inviting danger, but hey, I took it upon myself.
Sure.
Where it was really interesting to see, like, okay, people didn't like the rehash of the Superman origin, or they didn't like the actors, and no one really talked about the plot. No one really talked about, and everyone else there was either talking about like, oh, Marvel sucks, DC rules, kind of things, and everyone was like, oh, see, on Metacritic, you got a 55, and no one was actually talking about the movie. It was like, it's like the expectations and elements of the movie, but not the actual movie itself. Have we become this culture obsessed with not what the product is, but where it came from?
That does seem to be the case. More people are just they critique more on the expectations that don't seem to live up to what they had for it than the actual film itself most of the time. That's why I try not to let the kind of early buzz of it. I mean, I've only just seen one review of it, which was the IGN movie review, because I do follow the guys who do that, part of the website, which I used to listen to the IGN Movies podcast, but I do like the guy's opinion on it. So it seemed like it was fairly positive from what his take was on the film, on that short 2 to 3 minute review there. But other than that, I haven't really looked into it that much. I mean, it's sort of the same thing with some of the bad reviews with Iron Man. It's like it was for just for that reason with for the Mandarin, which is. It's always just kind of the sensitive, hardcore comic book fans that get upset about it.
Oh yes, I'm sorry, comic book fans, that we didn't include the overtly racist stereotype of a character into that movie. We're sorry we couldn't bring out Ching Chong Chinaman to play him. Like, we didn't bring. I would have loved it if they actually decided to go like with the actual route of like what the Mandarin originally was, and just like bring Ken Jeong from The Hangover into the movie just to play the Mandarin.
I'm sure they'd appreciate that.
Like, oh, see you later, Tony Stark, Mr. Gay Boy. Oh, going around swinging a nunchuck in the nude into people's faces. Like, yeah, that's what they want.
Just gotta give it to them then, in the sequel.
Mm-hmm.
In the sequel,
the real Mandarin.
I gotta tease that, like the end of Kung Pao Under the Fist, where they're showing that fake movie trailer for the sequel, and Godzilla shows up at the end of that. His giant foot.
I haven't seen Kung Pao in a good long time. I need to go rewatch that one.
Yeah, it's like I love watching that movie.
And there's not a lot of. I don't know what it is, but I don't really like the comedies coming out these days. Where it's like, okay, this is the end is coming out, where it's about like the celebrities playing themselves and like the rapture happens, but I don't like that kind of humor, because I'm not really a fan of this generation of comedians. It's pretty much all dick jokes or pop culture references, and it's like, if you ever watch This Is 40, it is nothing but that, like the Apatow kind of humor. You realize like, oh wow, there is nothing here except that. And it just gets so grating. I want to see, like, even if it's stupid humor like Dumb and Dumber, at least it was done beautifully well. Or like Almost Heroes, or Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, or His Girl Friday, or Annie Hall. Just they're like brilliant comedy, like good writing has just gone out of comedy. I still think it's there with drama, but just with comedy, it is just lowest common denominator thrown out there.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't really watch a lot of the comedies that come out because like you said, they're all just kind of the same. They're all starring the same kind of guys you see in the Apatow films. But no, I don't really watch any of them. I haven't even seen the original Hangover, and I really don't have any intent to really watch it. It doesn't. Those type of humor doesn't really get to me. It's just a lot of it just seems pretty lazy to me. But I like dark comedies a lot, like the like In Bruges or Seven Psychopaths.
Oh yeah. Shoot, what was it? It was just on tip of my tongue. I got it. Keep talking. Distract them.
Well, Jessica Chobot tweeted me last week.
Oh, really?
That's right. We had a little, pre E3 dinner over at the Olive Garden, very classy place. Shared some breadsticks. Thought I'd tweet that out there to her.
Aww.
She's all going out denying it, but which I understand because she is a mother of one and is married. But what are you gonna do?
Hey, just keep those lines of communication open, and who knows? Maybe you'll be her little sugar daddy on the side. Oh, and I do remember what the movie was. It was Burn After Reading.
Burn After Reading, yeah. It's been a while since.
Yeah, I love. Coen Brothers, always good for dark comedies, and which is basically all their movies. Even like No Country for Old Men, it's like a really, really, really dark comedy. I also got to say, speaking of dark comedies, Hitman Blood Money is exceptionally good.
Hell yes.
I gotta say, it's so bleak in terms of how it portrays like some of the effects of your assassinations. Like I only played the first two levels, kind of like the opening one and the Delgado winery, and it's just like the first guy. Your first target is like the head of the like broken down amusement park, and he has no idea how things went so wrong, and he's made horrible deals with these absolutely despicable people, and his life is just shit. And the last thing he sees before he dies is the picture of one of the victims, and he's crying, saying, "Please, for God's sakes, I've suffered enough," and then you kill him. It's like, good God.
What was your weapon of choice? There's so many options there in that room with the baseball bat, and there was another thing. There was something else. So many ways.
I felt so sorry for the guy. I just wanted to put him out of his misery, but I didn't want people to be alerted, so I didn't use my gun. I just gave him the poison syringe and just like snuck out the window. I was like, okay, and also these the gangsters you were working with and the guys who didn't pay you any money, I'm just going to kill them off just because they made your life a living hell, and I'll just do a little payback.
And also because they're in the way to your exit too. I played that level so many times. I don't know how you get a silent assassin rating on that. I got lucky once doing it because you have to go through them. There's really no way to sneak around them because they're kind of near the door. I don't know how you would go about that, but you use the bomb and then shoot, and then it goes down and the chandelier hits one of the guys, and then some chick that was there. I thought that was funny. I think it missed her too. I think she's like on the ground just pleading not to kill her. Just I'm out of here, lady. It's kind of that's a good tutorial mission there. I like how they give you the that sniper rifle in the beginning just to use for a couple of shots, and you have the option to take it with you. And then once you take weapons with you, they'll be in your like hideout here. There's usually some parts where you can blast off rounds and other weapons you collect throughout every level. But yeah, that's a good beginning there. I like how, it doesn't really. Most of the the guys you'll deal with are just kind of scums of the earth. So I kind of like that aspect of even though that they might seem like they got away with something, but they have something coming to them. With 47 on the trail, he doesn't really discriminate on anyone. If someone's in his way or a witness, he'll take them out.
Mm-hmm. It is a rather powerful. I think it's very powerful for it opening up with your first assassination being a guy who doesn't really deserve it, but he's still partially responsible for what has happened. in some tangential form, and so like killing him really sets the tone of like, okay, this is Agent 47. He's going to kill who he has to kill. It doesn't matter if they're like really quote unquote innocent, or if they're sorry for what they've done, or if it was just a misunderstanding. He's still going to get the job done, and if you're in the way, you're in the way.
Yeah,
and
it adds a lot to the meaning of your missions, because most of the people, from every game that I've played, most of them have not been really quote unquote morally innocent. Most of them have done something horrible, and you'll see in the later levels there'll be some more kind of despicable dudes you'd be glad to take out there.
I've only played a little bit of it so far, but I love the structuring and presentation of everything. Of course, it's very early. This was released for the 360, right?
Yeah, it's almost it wasn't a launch title, but it came out the same year as the Xbox, like 2006. So it's pretty. It's bleeding in between the old gen and then the current gen with the graphics, but it's till to date it's still the best. It's what I've like mentioned before. It's like it's what Blood Money is what Chaos Theory did for the Splinter Cell series. So that's like the highest pinnacle of what that those type of mechanics can go, and that was like what I liked about it the most, because that's everything's pretty polished in Blood Money than prior to the previous games. So I'm playing some of the older ones at the moment, and just like the AI is very inconsistent. So even though I was wearing disguise, it just started shooting me for no reason. So I did nothing to suspect them. It just it's just that little weird finicky AI. But Blood Money is the most polished of the series there, and. Absolution is slightly different in terms of the structure, but it still has the same. Some of the missions are reminiscent of Blood Money, where you take out a certain number of targets and kind of go about it the way you can get any way you want.
It definitely seems like they've reached the right balance in Blood Money anyway. Of like, okay, you've got your pre-mission weapons that you can choose, like you got the Silver Baller, is that what it's called?
Yeah,
you can like get that gun and like some extra equipment, but you're really gonna be kind of learning the surroundings and learning pretty quick, because like you gotta go, okay, I need to kill this guy, steal his clothes, put him in this crate over here, infiltrate this area, find another guy, kill him, put him inside of a shoebox or something, and then take his uniform. And because of the fact that I'm still kind of adjusting from my Splinter Cell conviction sort of high, that like I need to learn how to like sneak more, because I just keep getting like, oh, if I pull out my gun here, no one's gonna react. Oh, wait a minute, everybody sees this, and now I'm gonna die.
Yeah, pull out a gun in the middle of a crowd in that wine vineyard.
Yeah. It took me about 5 tries to actually kill the son. Where he was like, okay, he comes out of the room. I threw a coin in that little square, so he would go and investigate. Then I went up and planted a bomb on the wire, detonated it so that it would fall on top of him.
Yeah.
But I forgot to get farther away, and I accidentally got caught in the blast. And so I was just like in pain, and all these people were, and I didn't really understand the AI at the time, so everyone was pointing in different directions. So like, I guess they're like, oh, the sound was coming from that way. But when I was walking past them, I bumped into them, and they were all pointing in different directions. So it made them look like they didn't know where it was going on from. So I thought to myself, oh my God, are they pointing at me? So I just like ran as fast as I could out of there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one way there. That's one way to take them out. The first time I've done it, I try to do that, and then you have to time it just right, because there's a guard next to that area. If you like plant the bomb, if he sees you, in his peripheral vision, he just starts shooting at you. But you got to do it when he's not looking. Plant the bomb, and then throw that coin there, just to make it look like an accident. That was like an accident kill right there. Yeah, that's one way there. It's definitely another route you could take with that guy.
Mm-hmm. It's. I mean, I love how just open it is and how you can approach it. Very much like Splinter Cell Chaos Theory in terms of just, okay, like you can't really choose you can choose non-lethal actions, which is just like, okay, now you got a paralysis syringe. But mostly it's like, okay, you need to kill people or just make sure that their bodies are very well hidden. And with this game, it's just very open. The presentation looks very good. The graphics aren't top caliber since it's been so long, but just the look of it is very distinct.
The models are a bit weird. They kind of have some of them have like gorilla hands, or a bit odd.
Oh yeah. I mean the cutscenes with the guy talking to the other guy in the wheelchair. I haven't, I don't know his name yet, but I'll figure it out soon. But he's talking to him in the wheelchair, and like their mouth animations just look weird. They look like Halo Combat Evolved. Sort of, how they talk, they had that kind of square mouthish going thing. It's like it's not like their mouth is moving, just like descending and retracting. Where it's like, oh god, that looks odd, but it doesn't look realistic, so it can definitely pass.
Yeah, the game is told through flashbacks, so everything that's kind of going on in the beginning is kind of already transpired. So kind of replaying through some of the events they're talking about, and you'll find out a little bit later exactly what's kind of going on. But it's a great game and had a great ending too. I like the. What do you think of the? I know we only played that one real mission. That's not the tutorial mission, but I like the mission briefings you get on each target, and also your weapons lot where you can choose upgrades, and then once you get more money, you'll be able to upgrade some stuff, like get a better bulletproof armor or a briefcase or a sniper rifle with better scope and better suppression and all that jazz. There's also a notoriety system as well. If something happens during a mission, someone sees you, you'll see in your actions what you did will all get explained in the newspaper after a mission. You get to read out what happened. Like this, a mysterious man shot like 3 people, and one innocent guy was found stored in the freezer and knocked out. All that jazz.
I did not notice that. Oh.
Yeah, you should read.
Wow.
You should read
I got to replay it.
Yeah, you should read the newspapers after each mission. They'll tell you exactly what they'll write out exactly what you did. So if you kill like 3 guards, they'll say that the mysterious man shot like 3 guards and killed the main target and all that. There's a lot of detail into what you did. So if you like massacre everybody in there, they'll say like you massacred like 30 people in there. So they keep count of that. It's a lot of. It's also a nice little amount to read there after the mission that relates a little bit to the main story and some of the side articles there and what's to come. It also teases some of the missions ahead too.
Oh yeah. I remember hearing Easter eggs about that, how like you would be teased about some future locations or future characters.
Yeah, that Las Vegas mission is fantastic. You gotta get to that part of the casino. That's a big level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've only got a small taste for it, but I gotta say that wow, this is just shaping up to be a damn good game. Yeah,
looking forward to hear more thoughts on it when you finish it. I like to do a kind of more of a discussion on it that we did with Chaos Theory, so that'd be interesting. So yes, if anyone's still sticking around, this is episode 137. Bloody Thumbs. After that half an hour intro, to get to that intro.
Hey, that's quite all right. I think people know what they want, and they're getting what they're getting, and it's just us talking about some video games.
Video games and movies, because we partake in some films as well. We're not just video games.
We're connoisseurs of entertainment. We do not relegate ourselves to one small niche. We are appreciators of all types of art.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Couldn't have said it better.
It's
it's been kind of a big week. It's not one of those episodes where we can just we can BS, but we're not resorted to that. We can still talk about the big things that have gone on for the past week, which has been pretty major. There've been a couple of recent game announcements there, and certainly some demos released on some newer next gen games, especially coming out of E3.
Baby.
So so far, so you and I getting a PS4 then? Are you holding out?
With the way things are going, I have no idea. Just because, like, I think Sony, by the very for E3, the fact that they just didn't mess. I've never seen E3 where it's like not messing up was considered a boon for how people perceive you. But Sony managed to milk that for all it was worth, because it's not like, okay, the PS4 is so much infinitely better. They just did not have the really draconian restrictions that Xbox has, the Xbox One has, and Microsoft. God, they have dropped the ball on every single occasion. They're like, okay, what when they're answering like, oh, what about the people who can't have online capabilities with the Xbox One? And then they just go, oh, well, we have the 360 for that. But aren't you eventually gonna whittle that out and just like not even have 360 anymore? Yeah, but that whatever. It's not going to be our problem. And I've never seen a company just go from like pretty good standing in the game community to just being the absolute butt of every joke. And they're probably going to be getting the next EA's, probably going to be very thankful, because they're not going to be voted worst company in America anymore. It's going to be given right back to Microsoft. But man, I mean, out of all the games, I'm probably going to say I'm most excited for the Wii U right now, like just because of all the offerings that they have, and the very fact that
Bayonetta 2.
I'm so tired of serious. Pardon?
Bayonetta 2.
Yeah, buddy. Just like that, I am so glad to see a game that isn't just drop dead serious. Where it's like, Dead Rising 3, that's going to be a serious game? Are you kidding me? Have you played the first two? Where it's like, okay, when is it serious? Like, I would love to just undermine the entire seriousness, because like the next game is going to be starring a mechanic, and so I just want to go around running around in my boxers with a giant duck head mascot on my on my head, with little angel fairy wings on my back, and just have like this real emotional gravitas moment, and then realize, holy crap, I'm wearing a duck on my head and I have little fairy wings that would only be appropriate for 7-year-old ballerina girls. And it's just this. I mean, people are sick and tired of over seriousness with their franchises. This has been proven, and yet the industry just does not care.
It's all it's all about getting those casual gamers, man.
Yeah, it's a shitstorm. I have been dreading this next generation just because I am not really. I don't think that we need this generation. We have a lot of years and a lot of mileage left on PS3, 360, and just the very fact that I think that they felt like, okay, the Wii U was announced and launched, we have to step up our game and do that too. It fired back on them, and I just think that this is just way too soon. This is just way too soon. We haven't worked out the kinks of this generation. And it looks like it's just going to get worse in the next generation, especially with the Xbox One.
Yeah, I wasn't particularly looking forward to the next gen either. I thought it was a bit too early myself. It's just also just all this emphasis on it just seems like it's more just on the entertainment side of things rather than the games. And also, even with the games, it just seems like the same thing, but just better looking graphics. They're not really doing anything mechanically different. But I will say, the only thing that a couple of the stuff they showed at E3 that stood out to me the most was the Witcher 3, of course. Geralt of Rivia.
Maybe you can cast one of them signs to get them ladies naked.
It looks incredibly promising, because I like The Witcher 2 a lot, and they really, the developers are really good, so I don't have any doubt that they won't pump out a bad game. So they will put out a really enhanced version of the Witcher 2. So it seems like it's been, some of the games are a bit looking to be more open world as well. But I did like I thought it was more promising was some of the newer kind of gameplay mechanics with Metal Gear Solid 5, with the kind of open world stealth, to go about a mission different ways, driving there or taking a horse, or just all this all these atmospheric stuff with the environment and the kind of real time the time winding down as well. I like that a lot. It's just, it's Metal Gear Solid, so I'm always looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, and I do love the fact that this. I mean, Kojima has said that this will be his last Metal Gear game. Haha, yeah, right. But it looks like that with this one. He's really pulling out all the stops. He says he wants to go into questionable territory with the content, which I really like. And he's like, okay, we decided that we wanted to push for risky story decisions over sales, and I really appreciate him for doing that. And just the gameplay mechanics, it looks like Assassin's Creed, Red Dead Redemption, and then Metal Gear Solid 3 kind of all came together and had this love child, which, is Metal Gear Solid 5. And I still don't know how they're going to do Ground Zeroes compared to the Phantom Pain.
Yeah, Ground Zeroes, I'm still... I'm really unsure about, because there hasn't been really much talk about it, even at E3. Is that coming out this year? I know it's coming out. It's only coming out for the current gen platforms, right? It's not for any of the next gen ones. I know Phantom Pain is also going to be available for the Xbox One and PS4, but I think it's also going to be it might be or may not be for the current gen consoles at the moment.
Yeah, it's
a bit all over the place.
Yeah, from what I can tell, it's Ground Zeroes is going to be for this current generation, and then the Phantom Pain is going to be for current and next gen.
Yeah, Ground Zeroes.
I kind of feel like
Ground Zeroes is a prequel to Phantom Pain, and then the Phantom Pain takes place about a couple of years after the Ground Zeroes, from what I've seen on Wikipedia.
Yeah, it takes place, I think, almost a decade after Ground Zeroes, where Big Boss is in a coma.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He wakes up from that. He's like, okay, I gotta get out of here, and that's where it all takes place. And of course, it's just a really confusing trailer because you have no idea who anybody is or what the story is. Just people looking dramatically past the camera and into the distance. They have and the really weird play on words for English. There's Quiet, the female sniper. What was it, the Navajo Windtalker old man who is a
ghost without a past.
Yeah, and then they have those who quote unquote don't exist. It's what the hell is that supposed to mean? It's just okay, I guess they'll explain it all in the trailer, but I do like the fact that Kojima is still sticking to his sort of realism / fantasy military fever dream of a series where it's it dips into reality but then veers off into the craziness that is his universe. And I'm really looking forward to what happens. And also Kiefer Sutherland's in it, so who doesn't love Jack Bauer?
You have no idea how excited I was hearing that announcement there. You only got a little glimpse of the voice, but it seems like if you start playing, I think you'll get used to it. I always thought that obviously the Snake, before the David Hayter Snake voice was very iconic, but I never thought he ever gave off much emotion or depth to the character. It was always kind of it always seems like a little bit of a parody of the character. It's always he always spoke in questions like a new Metal Gear,
a bipedal tank.
You go into the bathroom.
There's a video on YouTube of just this one of just the collection of how a Snake responding to a question with that exact same question, where he's don't you know about Metal Gear? Metal Gear? What is that, Colonel? It's he's talking about that right now. Why are you just shush? Look over and talk, okay? Just listen. And it's just hilarious how much that, I don't know if it's a translation thing, but I guess Kojima doesn't really get that okay, you don't need to repeat every single thing for people to understand the context of the story, especially when you have cutscenes that go on for a very long time and get the point across.
Definitely, but I'm looking forward to that more often. Metal Gear Solid series has always been a unique series to get into. It's so dense in its story, even though sometimes it may not make sense. But some people may question that and say it makes complete sense if you played all the games and remember all that jazz there. But
that's a lie.
certainly a series that always since Metal Gear Solid 2, it's always been a unique series that did a lot of innovative things that you see in current games and other things. That it's just an experience that you don't really get with a lot of. It's a different experience you get than with most other games. You never considered a lot of the weird ways to go about boss battles, especially in Metal Gear Solid 3. There are different. There are ways that's been stomped in your head from other games that you would go about it, but it just completely gets turns on its edge there with Metal Gear Solid. Just go about different approaches in terms of gameplay and just how you handle boss battles. But yes, you were going to say that they make no sense, the storylines.
No. The people who say I completely understand the Metal Gear Solid timeline in the universe, those people are lying. That there is no freaking way that you can understand all the things that are said and the action. I'm fairly certain Kojima put shit in there just to make people confused and just not even get why he was even doing that. And of course, there'll be the artsy-fartsy group who say, it was a symbolic representation of man's frailty and the force of nature. It's no, it's just Colonel Volgin grabbing this guy's balls for no apparent reason besides, okay, I guess he just likes grabbing people's balls for no apparent reason.
It's the ultimate test of deception. That's the true nature of the beast.
I would love to see that 1970s spy film of this guy trying to infiltrate the Russian, the Soviet Union army. It's you there, what is your name? Nikolai, sir. Nikolai. Drop your pants, let me feel your balls. How do I know you're not a spy? Oh no, he's on to me.
The ultimate test. But regardless if you don't completely like the story, you don't think doesn't make much sense. It really, for me, it isn't really about it, but it certainly adds to the flavor of while you get into it. It's just always, it just really is a different. It's just an experience with the Metal Gear Solid games that you don't really get anywhere else, because a Metal Gear Solid game, and you never what Kojima does in those games. Not really a lot of other games really emulate it or try to do something in the vein of that. So that's always where people are always excited whenever a Metal Gear Solid game comes out every couple of years. It's not really on a yearly cycle. It's one of those games that come out every 2 to 3 years or around that time.
Yeah, I like the fact that they take their time, that they're not afraid to not really make people happy with the release dates of things. And I like the fact that it's Metal Gear, the original Metal Gear Rising game was this is not working for us, we're scrapping the entire thing and giving it over to Platinum. And they're also saying it's done when it's done. We won't just be Medal of Honor or Call of Duty and release every year just to get it under the radar. And it's a real staple mark of an artist when they're and it's also a real telling mark of a good company that we won't push this out. We have faith in our artists and they'll do it when it's done. And I really appreciate more people like Hideo Kojima for that. But that being said, and it's strange just because we have a lot of continuing motifs in the industry, and one of them is the changing of voice actors well associated with main characters. Because you had Hitman, who the Hitman series where you had Agent 47 being voiced by somebody else before fan backlash got the original voice actor back in there. Metal Gear Solid's Big Boss was originally played by David Hayter, and now it's going to be Kiefer Sutherland. And then you have Splinter Cell Blacklist, who had Michael Ironside, who's being replaced by Eric Johnson, I want to say his name is, but he's the newcomer. Yeah, and I just find that it's a very interesting thematic motif that's going on through a lot of stealth games, but in specific, but just a lot of the video games at large.
Mm-hmm. I haven't maybe I haven't been paying attention or cared enough, but I haven't really read much backlash on the whole Metal Gear Solid thing. I think it's gonna, once I play it, I think it's gonna turn out pretty well. I'm not gonna really notice the difference. I think that Kiefer Sutherland would bring an interesting dynamic to Snake there, and he has already kind of natural kind of gravelly voice there, so it's not really kind of put on.
Absolutely. It's like Kiefer Sutherland playing a badass who shoots guns and takes down terrorists. Pfft, that'll never be believable.
We already got a 24 game, but we're gonna get him as Snake.
Absolutely. So he's continuing the legacy, and then so I'm looking forward to that. Those games, Splinter Cell Blacklist as well, and I like it how it's shaping up, and I'm still a little bit sore, like, okay, maybe you should have just had Michael Ironside be Fisher in a administrative position with like the new guy coming in and taking over. But I'm still looking forward to the game, and it definitely looks like they learned from all the stuff that people were complaining about, how there was no non-lethal sections. There was a bit of a disconnect with the fact that you could have other like rifles and submachine guns, but your pistol never ran out of ammo, and you couldn't really mark and execute in motion. You had to wait, and you just stop and then shoot guys and then move again. And it definitely looks like they've learned a lot from their mistakes and just have kind of tried to combine the best of Chaos Theory and the best of Conviction together to make Blacklist. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here. A bit of a shame that they didn't show much. They didn't really show anything. There's just a trailer at the Ubisoft press conference. Unless you're following like the gaming websites where they post like some of the kind of demos that they have about the booths there. They didn't really show off much of Blacklist. That doesn't seem like they're really promoting it that much. I mean, it's relatively soon. It's coming out. I think it was in August or September, so it's not very far off.
It's a bit strange how they're. Well, maybe they'll ramp up a lot more advertising when it comes like a month before release. But it does seem a little bit odd how they're not really focusing on one of their big flagship franchises. But I guess they are focusing a lot more on Assassin's Creed for Black Flag. I want to say it was Assassin's Creed Pirates is basically the title for the game.
Pretty much.
Pirates Creed, if you will.
Yeah, that's looking good too. But I'm reserving some judgment. I'm not as excited for it as I probably would have been like 2 years ago. But they're focusing on like, okay, Assassin's Creed. They've definitely got some backlash for 3, and I think they understand now. Like, okay, maybe like we need to focus on some new innovations and not just like make things bigger just for the sake of making things bigger, and take it into a new direction, which is what I hope Black Flag is. But then they also have got the new Rayman game coming out, which looks just so much fun because like it's just colorful and exciting, and just I love the music in Rayman Origins. Oh yeah,
and it's just great. Just the banjo that they had playing, and when they got the little kind of fairy things that you collect, those are great. And then they have the Division, which is the new Tom Clancy game that they have, and it was really weird watching it because there was this strange disconnect of everybody was. Have you seen the trailer for the Division?
I didn't see. Is it the trailer about they spend like 2 to 3 minutes talking about epidemic and all that stuff? Diseases get spread through cash, and they could affect the children or something like that. Just some sort of weird long propaganda trailer. It was like it just went too long. One thing I will say is that the only kind of game or series that can get away with putting out 9-minute trailers or even more than 3-minute trailers is Metal Gear Solid. Those just watching those it's always just eye candy galore. But that was just it didn't really do it for me there. But I did see a little bit of the gameplay there. I'm not too sure about it. It's like are they putting out like now with these next gens or like more like MMOs now? They're trying to make it seem like it's this online world, the community. They have that and just this other kind of open world-esque racing games too. They've been promoting as well with these next gen games here. Yeah,
it's a really interesting. Yeah, like did they just have like a discussion behind like closed doors, and everyone's like, "Okay, guys, we got to make new MMOs for consoles right now," and like because there doesn't seem to be a really big precedence for this outside of maybe the DC Universe Online stuff. that they had, and it certainly is a very interesting way to go. But just like watching the Division gameplay trailer was a bit weird, just because of the fact it's like, okay, it starts out like, okay, I think it's going to be just like you get prepped. It's like, okay, there's a world that like there's diseases run rampant because the spread through cash, and the soldiers in the game just sound like really bored individuals who are just like, oh, top left,
exactly,
on the roof. It is.
I was going to mention that.
And if you're watching it, like, what kind of universe is this? And then it pulls back. It's like, oh, it's an MMO. Well, okay, that was a bit weird. Why didn't you just say it was an MMO before and then go into that? And then just like, okay, that would have made sense. And this just a bit shocking. Maybe that was the point, to get people saying like, oh, what the hell is this universe about? And then it's like, oh, okay, I get it. But yeah, the Ubisoft has that, and yeah, I really can't think of anything else that they've got going on besides those pretty big flagship games. They've one of the things that I did want to talk about was the fact that EA has announced that Mirror Edge is getting a next gen iteration.
Yeah.
However, it's going to be a reboot.
What? I didn't hear this. I thought it was a sequel here.
Nope. It is a 110% reboot. And it's like, wow, you guys only had one game and it was well received. Why the hell do you want to reboot? Oh, wait, I know, because you want to make it more like Battlefield or Call of Duty, because there's definitely a little bit of if you look at some of the preview images for that game compared to that one, to the original one, this new one seems a lot less colorful and a lot less kind of artistically interesting than the new one. I'm sorry, compared to the old one, it does not look as good.
The original had a little bit of cell shading, if I'm not mistaken, didn't it?
A little bit, I think so. Yeah, where it was they had the computer rendered cutscenes and these really interesting animated sequences, and then they had and just the look of it was just very, very brilliant and bright and just so really cool. And then it just like, it took how many years for them to finally, this is another iteration. And then and then DICE and Visceral are now working on the new Star Wars games.
Yay.
That's a thing. Yeah, yay. Yeah, so Battlefield's being done by DICE, and that's cool, I guess. I mean, we only saw a teaser trailer of like the Battle of Hoth, and then that was it. And it's like, okay, that's cool. And yeah, on the same level of like, okay, that's cool, but it's not really that enthralling, would probably be the Halo 5 teaser trailer, where it's just like, okay, what the hell is Master Chief doing in the desert, and why does he have a coat on, where he's like, you have battle-hardened armor. There's no way dirt can get into your systems if it tried. Why are you wearing this thing?
Uncharted.
Him just like grabbing onto cliffside edges and making wisecracks.
I got reboots.
Even a Halo 5 can't really entice me to buy the Xbox One right now. It looks.
Yeah, I originally thought the Witcher 3 was Xbox One exclusive, but I looked a bit further. It seems like it's also coming out for the PS4 as well, so that's good. I do want to play the Witcher 3 there, and some Metal Gear Solid. So that's the only ones that kind of I could think of that stood out. I mean, Watch Dogs, it's cool as well. They're not really they tease it every now and then, so it's at least interesting enough to see these different kind of demos they put out. But it's nothing that I could think of that I really wasn't paying attention much of what the other games. I didn't get to see the Microsoft press conference, but I did see the Sony one.
You didn't miss it. In fact, actually, correction, you did miss it. Most people did miss it, and certainly people at Microsoft missed it, because it was like, okay, here at Microsoft, we are dedicated to enslaving you. To basically, we will give you a fiefdom and we will determine whether or not you are allowed the privilege of working on it. And it is just ridiculous how far. I mean, Microsoft could have brought out Armed and Dangerous 2, the next sequel to Crimson Skies, the next Halo, the next Gears of War, the next Perfect Dark made by the original team members of Rare, and it wouldn't matter because the hardware is just so freaking impossible to work around that it encumbers every single argument. It's like, wow, that game looks great. Unfortunately, it's on the Xbox One.
Mm-hmm. I feel the same way for. I know that there's that new Swery game that's on the Xbox One, exclusive, the episodic murder mystery by Swery. Yeah. That trailer looked interesting. It was I think it's a Kinect game or something. I saw some QTEs in there, but I mean, it's Swery. I want to experience that myself, but it's it's unfortunately just on the Xbox One there at the moment.
You know what was strange? Do you remember that there was a Kinect game that had Chris Evans as the starring role?
What?
In it? I don't even remember what the game was called, but it was I guess it was some sort of Hollywood simulator of some sort where it was Chris Evans was in the role, and this wasn't when he was unknown. He was known for doing Captain America. He was going to do the Avengers, and he was in some rom-coms, and he was pretty well known. And he's still doing this thing. It's what are you doing here? Are you just Samuel Jackson or Christopher Walken, where it's oh, are you free this weekend? Sure, let me just come on down, and we'll just hammer out a good old stinky script over there, and you can pay me.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I think I've seen it on the marketplace there, but I thought it was just one of those things where he's just on the cover, but he's actually in the game. That's crazy.
I mean, I don't know how it can beat Star Wars Kinect, but that's set the bar pretty high in terms of just not only video games but art in general. And it's just such a weird transition where it's okay, Microsoft thinks okay, you need to have Kinect because that's the thing that people bought Xbox for. When you realize, no, they didn't. They bought it for the Xbox, and there's no other choice in the matter. You can't just oh, can I get the cheaper version without the Kinect? Nope. You need to buy this, and that's the only way you can do it.
Mm.
And then, the only positive thing, I guess, is that the Microsoft points are being phased out for real money, and they're saying that the money will be equal or greater in marketplace value than what the original Microsoft points were. So, yay, I guess.
I did see that. I know I've mentioned that before, how that's they should kind of fizzle that out a little bit more, because I always thought it was a bit weird, because you just can't buy an item in particular that's let's say less than $1, because you have to get the pack of Microsoft points. If there's anything less than that, you got to get the lowest common one you can get was just $5 or I believe it was 400 Microsoft points. So anything else you have left, you kind of either save it or just spend it on something, just so you don't have it just staring at you in the face. What can I get with this? I can't get shit with 160 points. At least get some. I guess I get a shirt for my avatar. I guess might as well. I'm not going to use this.
I have 40
else.
Microsoft points. I could spend it on a shoe. That's about it.
Ridiculous.
But the games I am really looking forward to are, strangely enough, on the Wii U, where everything else that I'm really interested in is either already coming out for this current generation or is coming out for the Wii U, because they have Watch Dogs, that's going to be current gen and next as well. And then for Nintendo, they've got Super Mario 3D World, where it's okay, how about Mario and company start dressing up like cats? Okay, that sounds good. They have the Wind Waker HD remake, which is that's going to be cool. And then the Super Smash Brothers stuff. I'm a huge Smash Brothers fan, and I love the I loved Brawl. It was my favorite one in the series, and just okay, they're adding not only Mega Man, but they're adding the Villager from Animal Crossing, and there's already a bunch of memes of how he's what was Jack Nicholson from The Shining, where he's all these characters being absolutely terrified of him, and just showing up that smiling face you're gonna die tonight. and then they have Nintendo has the absolute brass fortitude to say, you know what, we're gonna add the Wii Fit trainer into this, and guess what? You're gonna love it, and it's so incredibly awesome.
I heard about that. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I mean, Nintendo is Nintendo. I think I don't know how you know what you're gonna get. Like it's been like this for a while. Like maybe the first year, not a lot of games come up, but like after that, the next year of the console release, you'll start getting some games.
Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Storm, or whatever it was called.
Yeah, I guess at this point, it just I guess a matter of kind of what you want out of the Nintendo, just kind of those same cavalcade of games. I guess. I mean, I personally don't have really a problem with it. I mean, people want to play those games, that's fine. But that seems like that's all they really put out most of the time. Not really a whole lot of new IPs other than just kind of some of the ones they might have obtained. Like Bayonetta 2 is the only one that kind of something.
Oh yeah,
it just seems like it's non-Nintendo. You would expect Nintendo to put out a game like that or publish it. But yeah, I mean that's fine. I don't know how long they could really. Well, at this point, they've been doing it for years, so I don't think that Mario or Donkey Kong or Zelda are running stale. But that's fine.
Nope,
that's cool.
There's also the wonderful 101, which looks just like a cross between Pikmin and No More Heroes, and that just looks awesome. And it's being done by Platinum Games, which is just excellent, just because they can finally do these were the guys who used to be Clover, and so now they can actually finally do something that's not as like dark and mature as Vanguard or Bayonetta, where they can finally just have like crazy, super kawaii, chibi action with these little Japanese characters, and then you have X, which is that really it's not being talked about a lot, but it looks like this really cool combination between maybe like a Steel Battalion and no, I'm sorry, Mech Assault, because Steel Battalion sucked, but it was like a Mech Assault and a Monster Hunter Tri, where it's like you're in this open world and you got this your own kind of mech suit and you're moving around, and it looks really fascinating, but no one's been talking about it. Yeah, so I definitely recommend everyone go out and check it.
Yeah, also some I think this was like not in the conference, but also kind of just announcements. Like on the they had this announcement for the kind of DLC for the Walking Dead game. Looks pretty good.
Yeah, 400 Days, I think it's called.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Very interesting. It's I loved the Walking Dead point and click adventure game that was done by Telltale, and so this is going to be season 1 leading into season 2, and wow, I am just ecstatic. I cannot wait for whatever comes next, because like they like this, and then they have The Last of Us, which I watched the cutscenes for that game just all the way through because I don't have a PlayStation, and that was some emotional stuff. Where it's like, wow, this is dark, this is heavy, and then the same with The Walking Dead, where it's like, wow, this is just brilliant, and I love to see more from that.
Yeah, the cutscenes look really good. I saw some gameplay footage, a little bit of that. That looks good. I was considering for a brief moment getting just a PS3, but just because I wanted to play, I was in the mood of playing the Deadly Premonition Director's Cut. Wanted to see what new things they added on there, and just what they did with just the. I know that they said that they changed some of the. I guess that some of the textures, I guess it's supposed to look better, but from the screenshots, they look pretty much the same. But there was like a color filter difference between the 360 and PS3. I think it's a bit. I think it was either. I think the original had a either a green or purple tint originally, or maybe at night that's when it would turn purple. It had some sort of color look and filter that was different. But I know they added a new character on there. There's like a different. I saw the cutscene and there's like a different prologue and epilogue at the end. Epilogue. Yes, prologue and epilogue, and then Anna looked a lot better. I was so positive because she looked weird.
Oh yeah.
Out of all of them, she was like the one that they put less detail on it, and she was kind of a vital kind of plot element throughout the whole game. So I don't know why they didn't really take the time to make her look halfway decent, and you know how in video games it looks sometimes it can get a bit weird with the characters and when they smile, it always kind of looks freaky, especially with York. Did that a couple times.
But somehow that's endearing.
It is,
where it looks weird enough. Like, okay, you can either be like, he looks weird in their world as well as ours, or it actually is just like how they smile and how they pass in that world. But just like York's creepy smile, like it's just so. It's almost like breaking the not the Hidden Valley, because that's a ranch, but I can't remember what it is. Valley of Realism. What's it called?
Let's go with that.
Okay, yeah, the Hidden Valley Ranch. It breaks the Hidden Valley Ranch between like, okay, I don't believe this guy is real. Okay, this guy is real. Like CG gets really good. The Uncanny Valley. That's what it's called. Where it's like, okay, it looks almost real, but this one thing is really creepy, and I can't really put my finger on it. But in the Deadly Premonition game, there's like moments where okay, these character models look good, and then they'll do that thing where it's like it dips into the Uncanny Valley, but you're not sure if it breaks and goes in the Uncanny Valley just because of how the presentation and style of everything. And it's just, Deadly Premonition is one of those games where there's as many unintentional laughs as there are intentional, and it just made with so much dedication and love that I feel like trying to go back and George Lucas special edition it would be, I don't know, a disservice to the original spirit of it.
Well, the director's cut, they didn't really change a whole lot. It was just, small things here and there. Like the driving was slightly improved. But, like you said, they got, it wasn't, they couldn't figure out the map, unfortunately. But,
oh, God, that map.
But, no, like when I was saying about Anna, it was kind of that uncanny valley there, but the faults of that game was what made it endearing. So even if it was intentional or unintentional, it's hard to really tell. But it seems like some of the parts there seemed like it was intentional, even though obviously seems like it was a budgeted game, but they put in a lot of work, especially the small things that you wouldn't notice unless you really cared about looking into it, like just all the character patterns for each of the other characters in the town. They all have their patterns, and if you follow each individual one, you get to see what they do on a daily basis. And if you follow a particular character, you really get to kind of it's like an interesting, really foreshadow to what's going to happen later on.
The old woman and her pot.
Oh man! If you ever played that side quest where you have to drive her around because she's with her pot, that was a crazy one, because you have to go pick, because she's at what was it, at Harry's house. I think it was Harry, the guy in the wheelchair. Yeah, you know how he lives far off from the town, so you have to go pick her up from there and then drive down this long hill. You know how the driving gets is so weird. So you're driving down the hill, and the driving mechanics are fighting against you, and she's there yelling at you about her pot getting cold. It's funny because I did like a Dukes of Hazzard move with the car, and it's like, you're driving too slow, and I just said that while I was in midair. It's like, you crazy woman, you crazy. Just that intentional dialogue there that repeats is what makes it endearing.
And you know what, it is. People say it apes a lot from David Lynch's of Twin Peaks, but it is very similar in the dialogue, where it's like, okay, you don't know if this is supposed to be like serious, unintentionally hilarious, or it's like a satire of like how the dialogue usually goes. But it's like, no matter which way you slice it, it's still endearing.
Yeah, it obviously, if you've seen Twin Peaks, it is it doesn't really rip it off per se, like the original design of the game they had originally. It was called like Rainy Woods. They had a trailer for that. It was definitely a lot like Twin Peaks, but the Deadly Premonition is definitely, you can see that there's definitely inspiration from Twin Peaks, but it's definitely its own unique take on just like that type of horror, and just a lot of it has similar elements, but it does it in its own way where it's not really ripping off anything. But it's definitely, you could tell it's definitely inspired by Twin Peaks. I'm looking forward to just those little nice surprises are things that I really don't see a lot of in the industry these days, where it's just like, okay, they're just like,
same thing with movies, where like some are blockbusters because of the fact that there's so much money going into them, and the studios demand a good return of their investments. They want franchises, they want sequels, they want properties already established, and you get that with you get that with the Transformer films or Man of Steel or the superhero films. Like, they're good. A lot of them are good sometimes, but it's like, okay, I want something fresh and interesting, like Pacific Rim, which I'm really looking forward to, or Elysium. And then with video games, it's like, okay, State of Decay looks really, really awesome, and I didn't hear anything about this. Or like Hotline Miami, which is just like this really weird psychedelic game, and nobody really saw it coming, and then it's like it came out and like, wow, it's like a bolt of lightning. And I just feel like I would like to see a lot more of these little surprises rather than these huge epics, because I'm kind of done with huge epics for a while.
Yeah.
Because how many times can the world blow up and it still have the same impact?
Mm-hmm. One thing I did like about one of the kind of many other things I did like about the Sony press conferences on their kind of emphasis on just supporting the indie developers. There was definitely some time taken in that conference, talking about just the indie developers and some of the possible indie games and some other kind of ones that are already out right now getting ported over to the PS4.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. That was interesting.
Yeah, I am curious about how the indie, not just like the indie market side, because I feel like we need two different categories for indie. Like the indie games like Shank and Shadow Complex, and technically those are kind of indies where they're these smaller studios, but I mean like indies where they have like just starting out to these people making games, or like even if they're crap, they're like, okay, they're students like working on their craft and like getting response from people like, oh, okay, I really like this about your game, or I didn't. And I would still like to see that continued, like Breath of Death 9, I think it was called. It was like this satire of Final Fantasy and turn-based RPGs, where you play as just like an undead skeleton in the post-apocalyptic future, and you can't say anything, which is kind of the satire, like, oh, that's the same thing like in Pokemon or whatever. You can't really make any sounds, and so people just assume what you said is true. And so it's like a really interesting game of that caliber, and that's like an indie game because it's like developed by a very small team. And same thing with what was the name of the Dust and Elysium tale?
Oh yeah,
like working on that one where it's like it's one guy who was doing the entire thing, and just. That was just incredible.
Yeah, that game is gorgeous. I was been playing that not recently, but like last 2 weeks ago. I was playing through that a lot. It's just a beautiful, gorgeous game with it has an interesting story and characters there. There's definitely a lot of work was put into that. It looks good. It looks really great. It's like you're watching a cartoon at some points. It kind of it's just really it's HD utilized at its full potential right there. Not just this this big game where it's just it's HD, but it's just you're not getting much color here. It's just there's a lot of rubble and and a gun pointing here. It's just a gray environment, which works in some cases, but it's just a lot of that oversaturation. Just of it's just a lot of these games that take themselves too seriously, but
yeah.
We're getting here and there some ones that are a bit more lighthearted. It's nice to have.
Yeah.
Maybe some indies. That's good. We need to get. Are we pitching a Barkley Shut Up and Jam port on the PS4?
I'm sorry, for what?
For Barkley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden port on the PS4.
Oh my god, I would kill if that came out for Xbox Live Arcade or something, where it's like, everybody get up, it's time to slam now. It's like, yes, oh god, yes, this is the game I've been hoping for. This is like Move Over, Walking Dead, Last of Us, BioShock Infinite, DMC. This is my game of the year right here. Just let me embrace you, let me enfold you in my embrace, and just come closer into my heart, you wonderful game, you.
I'd love to see how Tale of Games handle achievements. How funny would it be if there's like just one achievement for the game and it's like 1,000 gamer points and it just says you beat the game. That's it.
What else do you want from us? Go away.
Something like that, or just like get an achievement for doing that, just like these rare quick time events in the game, or just
I bet you try. It's like the achievement's like, I bet you tried to do this section a lot, huh? Up, down, left, BA, hurry!
Teardrop, call Kurt Cobain.
Or like one of the achievements is diabetes, or you meet Wilbur Brindley.
My God,
it's just I think like there's so much creativity that's really being stifled by just a lot of these terrified, really, investors who have no idea what to do. And for the fact of the matter is, I think that they need to be more like 70s films, where it's like, okay, the producers in charge really just let the developers just have at whatever they want, have the creative team just do whatever they want. Of course, it wasn't going to be as well paid for, but it's like, okay, we'll give you a budget, just go do whatever. And then just have them be as creative as they want to be, because, that it feels like, okay, you need to have a huge success behind you before you even try to do something interesting, or at least different from the mold, like BioShock Infinite, because Ken Levine had a lot of clout with the original BioShock, and then even still, then they tested. They weren't allowed. Their testing indicated that, like, okay, we need to have Booker on the front of the game cover and not Anna. I'm sorry, Elizabeth on the cover, because it doesn't test well with frat boys who see the game and say, like, oh, there's a chick in the game. I'm not going to play this crap. But and like they're still slaves to that sort of marketing, and it's insane. Just like, okay, it's like a really small thing. Like, if you think people don't know what BioShock Infinite is, who are just like wandering through the store and like, oh, what's this thing? Then I think that's like going to be a very, very small minority.
Yeah, it's just a very weird, naive way of thinking there. But yeah, I always find it weird with some game covers. They're like books. You can't really judge them by the cover, but most people do for some weird reason. There, if they don't see a guy holding a gun on the cover, then they don't seem to look twice at it. But there's definitely been a lot of cases there. I think they need to break the mold on that. They're always saying that the games with female protagonists don't do well for some weird reason, because, I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, so Metroid, Tomb Raider, Perfect Dark, Beyond Good and Evil, Portal, like those games, they don't sell. They don't sell at all. They obviously just have no appeal, and that nobody ever thinks of them as being good games. And it's sad, really. Just like, okay, why are we having these debates? We've not only proven that's not true, but like there's the marketing and reasons that we think that are basically false. Like how there was a episode of the Jimquisition where they just talked about the fact that focus testing does not work, and they actually had a lot of good reasons why it just does not work, and then that people just don't really pay attention to that because, like, oh, it's what we've always been doing. And which is why, like, the original, like, New Coke, if people remember that, that one failed and fizzled out, even though that tested groups said, like, oh, yeah, I really like this. But when people were actually left to their own devices and money, and they actually had to spend their money, it was, I don't want to pay for this, I'll do something else.
Yeah, I saw that, too. That you used the coffee analogy where people want just this dark, rich flavor, but they always just getting the shitty, cheap flavor. They don't... Mm-hmm. They say what they think that the people want to hear. See, it's that type of mentality that goes through their heads there.
Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit wary of the industry right now because I'm just like, okay, you guys. I'm really, really glad that Remember Me was even made, just because of the fact that it has a female protagonist. She's not overly sexualized. She doesn't have, like, she's not toting two huge guns. I'm not talking about her bosoms anyway. Where it's not like two huge guns on the front of the cover, and it looks like an interesting sort of premise. And while it didn't exactly get the bravest reviews, it still got mentioned as like being, oh, this is really, really cool and really an interesting idea, and I'm probably going to try to go pick it up when it gets cheaper, kind of like with Enslaved or Majin in the Forbidden Kingdom.
Oh yeah, you getting into that Tropes versus Video Games series?
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. What's going on?
I lost my train of... what was it? The Tropes versus Women Video Games?
I haven't seen that yet. I've just been like... The only thing I'm just beholden to the fact, like, okay, I think, the portrayal of women in video games is not always egregious, but it's not exactly spot on perfect with all the other arts and mediums. I think it's amplified a lot more because video games are the most popular medium in artistic endeavors, and it's just more amplified just because of the fact that it's video games and everything in video games is just hyperbolic. And with Tropes versus Video Games, I just think to myself, like, if a woman has a complaint about if women in video games not being represented as well as men, I think that's true. I think there aren't exactly as many, forever. We don't have a whole slew of great female characters who are the actual protagonists of video games. Where we have we have good characters like Alex Vance, or we have Samus Aran, barring of course Metroid Other M, or Jade from Beyond Good and Evil. Like for all those characters, we get like 10 Beyond Dead or Alive characters, where it's like they're nothing but just like 18-year-old girls with like double Ds bouncing around in bikinis. It is understandable, but that being said, to answer your question, no, I have not watched women versus video game tropes.
All right, yeah, just curious because I've seen the two videos on that. I think there's only two, but yeah, I do get the notion, obviously, that there's some definitely games that don't portray women in the greatest light there, and obviously some of it is there just to be done intentionally for the game's purpose there, or whatever type of weird genre it is. But yeah, it is what it is. I think that watching the videos, I really didn't think there needed to be a Kickstarter for it. I think that's something that anyone could really do if they had a decent video editing system. I didn't think there was really necessarily a need for any type of Kickstarter. There's really nothing too special there. There's some points I could see where she's coming from there, but there are other ones that just seems a bit far-fetched. That she is more of a kind of biased series there. She's like a total feminist to me, but
right. I mean, there's nothing. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with feminists. I believe women absolutely must have equal rights to men, and vice versa. And just like respect for both genders is a must. But then, sometimes there will be not just only, people calling out racism where none really exists, but, calling out sexism as well. And it's hard to separate personal feelings from actual empirical understanding of what is racism and sexism and what isn't. And it's a very hard, slippery slope to try to traverse. Because you say, like, oh, wait, it's like, well, this character, like here, it's like Alex Vance, like, oh, she's a great video game character because she's strong and independent, she's outspoken, she has her own flaws, and she eventually grows as a character. And then you'll have people saying, like, yeah, but it's sexist because she's not the main character, and you have a man who doesn't have any of that as the main protagonist of the game. And then it's that sort of very dangerous back and forth of how much of it is your opinion and how much of it is actual attacks against your race, sex, or creed.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a line you have to identify first to kind of get an idea of what they're coming from. But yeah, but it's the internet, so this is going to be always crazy comments about it. So that's why she always disables the comments on YouTube, but which is understandable. But it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I just thought I'd just bring that up because I was winding down on what to talk about. But I mean, overall, I mean, what you think about this E3? I guess we're just doing an E3 sort of discussion here. And I have been playing other other titles here. Not a whole lot, just a couple of ones in the backlog I've been meaning to get to. Oh my god, let me tell you, I've been playing some Catherine.
Catherine looks like a very interesting video game, and it's all about the guy who just he's got two ladies in his life, both named Catherine, and they're vying for his attention, and it's you got nightmares where you're gonna die if you don't solve some puzzles, and you got to find out okay, who do you want in the relationship?
Let me tell you, CH. People always say, I've always said that the games are too easy. There aren't enough challenging games. But I say the contrary. There are definitely a selection of video games you can play that I wouldn't necessarily say. I guess they're hard. That they're challenging. They expect you to be always on your toes. Never expect any type of handouts in terms of save points or checkpoint. But Catherine is definitely a challenging puzzle platformer there, which is pretty much assembling these blocks into trying to make kind of a sort of your staircase up to the finish line, and they're always throwing in different elements there. Either whether you be chased by a baby with a chainsaw, or just other things. And it's a really interesting game. I'm digging the story. I'm not so much the puzzles because I'm not that great at it, but I've managed to, after many multiple tries on each levels, I'm almost to the end here. It's the same thing I had with Bayonetta. I like playing Bayonetta, but there was a point where I was like, man, when's this over? But there was a couple of points oh, I think it's almost over, but no, it's still going on. But I'm digging it, but I also like it to end because it's so much. They're putting a lot of stress on me, either doing these combos or doing these puzzles here for Catherine. But Catherine's interesting because with every night there you get the nightmares, and it's also you get to talk to these other sheep there. It's kind of I guess it has a sort of symbolic symbolism in it as well. These other sheep here, and as you play through the game, after you finish these puzzles, that's when you'll get some bulk of the story. And you'll be at this this bar. I don't know if you played it, but you be at this location with your friends and you talk to them, and they're always. And as the game progresses, people that you talk to at bars, you'll get more information about them. And basically, these guys are having dreams, nightmares, and then being killed in their sleep. So it's all about just kind of cheating in relationships like that. And
I would love to see a sequel where it's actually just a guy trying to commit to the PS4 or the Xbox One, and then in his dreams he's being chased by the always online Kinect, and he's trying to figure out okay, which one does he want in his life?
Oh, that'd be a good game too, definitely. But yeah, it's an interesting story about relationships and all. There's a lot of there's some questions that I ask you about just very generic and very open-ended questions. It's just either or. So it's kind of I've just been playing it as trying to get through it. Can you hear me? I cut out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now that there's decisions you'll make, and
just a little bit. For some reason, my Wi-Fi is a little sketchy.
My goodness, my God.
Awesome, and yeah. I would love to see just more of these games taking a little bit of risks or trying to get into a genre or a type of game that we don't see a lot. And Catherine is one of those that really got my attention, where it's okay, it's a RPG dating sim that's a bit and it's a puzzle solving game as well. So it's okay, this is a really interesting one where you're not just mowing down God knows how many zombies or punching a guy in the face, a demon in the face with your demon gloves, or even though I love BioShock, it's not okay, you're shooting a bunch of guys and using your magical powers doing it. It's okay, it's just a cool little fun game where it's traversing and traveling and puzzle solving.
Yeah, it's interesting. It takes some interesting and mature turns throughout the whole thing. When you're hanging out with friends at bars, it's just that's the moments where you kind of take a break from the puzzles, and it's just where you're making kind of those decisions that have some sort of implication on how certain scenes play out, or you get alternate scenes or the ending. So I've been pretty indifferent. I really didn't I didn't really lean on either of the girls. Really, I haven't been playing it in a way where I'm trying to two-time in both. I've been trying to play it as just how the story has been going for as at the moment. Like Vincent is this guy who's just like wants things to stay the same and not really commit to anything in what he's already have at the moment. But it's starting to get interesting in the later half of the game. Like the beginning, I really didn't care at all what was going on, but it got a lot better, and the story got a lot more interesting that way. And just it's really good because like these other guys in the bars you talk to start having these nightmares as well. And as you progress, you'll start to notice that the same guys you talk to are the sheep that you see in your dreams. They're all sheep, but you're the only one that looks like you, but has the sheep ears. And you'll notice how each sheep will have a distinctive look about them and voice. So you'll start to see that these guys are cheating as well, and that's why they're in here getting these nightmares as well, trying to climb to the top and survive and not die in their sleep. So as you progress, you start to lose some guys, and then you start getting a bit more attached to some of these other guys trying to survive with you. And you can choose to talk to them, you could just not, or you could just avoid them at all, and you just not. And it'll affect their kind of storyline. And then by the end, you'll end up resolving kind of some of the issues they might have with their relationships, depending on if you talk to them or not, or just kind of steer them in a different direction that will probably not solve their issues at all. There's been a lot of interesting dudes there. Like a guy was not, like most of them are not committing or anything, but the game takes a interesting turn near the almost ending half of that game. But it's interesting. I got it for fairly cheap there. I've been meaning to play that for a while, but yeah, I'm digging it. I think I'm getting better at the puzzles. So other than that, that's what I've been playing. I rebought Dark Souls again because I'm a complete masochist. So I thought I'd give that another shot, and we'll see where it takes me.
I promise to finish up Blood Money as well before the next recording of the episode, so we can have another good old round table discussion to talk about.
I look forward to hear your thoughts on that and just your takes on each level, and I know the series hasn't been really hugely about the story, but this Blood Money takes some interesting turns with its story. But I thought that Silent Assassin was pretty good, and it was a bit, personal story. But that one, the Blood Money, is an interesting story as well, especially near the end. That's worth mentioning and getting into near the end as well. But it takes some interesting gaming choices near the end there. But that's all I will say there. That's all I will say.
Alrighty. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to finishing up Blood Money. But as you were saying before. Talking about what do we think about E3?
Yeah, and for the most part. I mean, I know that there are a couple of games here and there, but not a whole lot that I am incredibly looking forward to. They're like I think about 3 or 4 games, and that's really all about it. That are definitely worth playing. I would buy a new console just to play those games, but not really for the consoles themselves. But that's something. That's another story here for our next podcast. But there are definitely some games here and there, like Metal Gear Solid 5. I'll definitely am looking forward to it. I would like to play, and I gotta get a new console for it. But definitely worth purchasing a console for.
Yes, I still don't know if I'm going to be investing in the next gen anytime soon. Yeah. Like I was definitely on board for the 360 when it came out, but it was definitely more like, okay, that is a really good lineup, and it didn't have this really strange dogmatic association with like, oh, we will license you out your products that you technically own. It's just really, really strange. But that being said, I'm not really looking forward to the next generation. I don't think there's anything there that we could not have done here, and especially with games like Blacklist, Metro Last Light, of Splinter, of Metal Gear Solid 5, of Last of Us, where all these games are coming out right now, and they look incredible, and the developers are really finally got like a complete grasp of their kits that they have, and just like, okay, they're making some incredible games, and now it's all a matter of like, okay, now we just need to be creative, and it's just like, okay, now we just need to move on to the next thing. It's like, no, we still have a lot of time left for these, and he just like, for this E3, I think that nobody really won except for maybe the Wii U, just because of the fact that they just focused on games. It wasn't like, oh, this hardware thing, oh, this online service. It was just okay. And the fact that Nintendo they just did a Nintendo Direct rather than E3. I like that, just because of the fact that we don't need E3 to tell us anymore like when new games were coming out, because it's kind of an antique in terms of letting people know what's going on in the industry. Where before we had the internet, it was like, oh, okay, E3 is coming around. People had new things to announce and release, and that was a real big thing. But now that we have the internet, we just are connected 24 hours, and so it's like, oh, okay, so this thing's coming out. That's cool. Why do I have to wait for E3 to have it be re-announced? It's kind of strange.
I see what you mean. I see where you're coming from, and it's a bit disconcerting knowing that just out of the E3, it was more about just either the business practices or just the hardware itself that stood out the most rather than just the games. But especially definitely what changed the most, I thought was more appealing, just for the price and also just the price and just that sense there that you don't have to worry about the whole used games thing, because it does apply to some people. Other people might not really seem to be much affected, but we just still don't know to the extent on what you can or can't do on the Xbox until I guess launch. So anything could really happen or change, but that's just me being an optimist. But we'll see. I know that it's not gonna affect everyone, but it's definitely some people. I definitely do partake in a lot of buying used games, so that just the Xbox One doesn't appeal to me that much, just because you don't know if publishers, from the whole standpoint of what we've been talking about for, I guess, the past podcast, is that publishers always looking to get extra cash. So I doubt that they were gonna probably let their games be even sold unless it's through them or either Microsoft or any type of it also puts out a lot of, it's potentially ruins a lot of businesses as well. It could definitely affect GameStop, and at this point I don't know why people think GameStop is bad. Their business practices here and there are questionable, but they're a great place to get used games, and that's how they make most of their money. And I know that the publishers want that used games money, but the games have already been bought. They've already been bought for. Why do you want another double dip in there? I just don't get it. I get it, but I know, but it's just nature of the beast.
Yeah, it's certainly a really weird business practice where once again Jim Sterling has appropriately dubbed GameStop and the video game industry's relation as the Starscream effect, where it's like they'll help each other out, but they're constantly planning to overthrow each other just to get ahead. But they'll just make nice as long as possible before the right time to strike.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really weird thing right now where it's okay. Like, I'm really looking forward to whatever Valve's console is going to be, just because of the fact that they have Steam going on there, and it seems like they can do nothing but succeed because they know how to please the video game constituents, and not just like coming from business first, games later. It's like games first. Let's see how we can sell them, and then if we can make a huge profit, try. But it's usually just like, okay, people love our business practice so much that they'll just go head over heels for our sales and for our purchases. And just like Valve is like this knight in shining armor from these demonic forces of like, we don't trust you with your own property, so you'll have to work the land for a little bit longer.
Definitely, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Still a long way till November for, I don't know when, if I don't know if PS4 comes out the same month as Xbox One, but I know that the Xbox One comes out in later this November. But things might change, maybe not completely, but we'll see. We saw how different it was early on, like with the PS3 and Xbox. Before Sony was a kind of a joke a couple of years ago, but now that they kind of sort of slightly just turn things around with just giving what people want. They want a decently priced console with just no restrictions. We've gone into length about just these DRMs with games with the services like Origin and just other SimCity for recently, and just like if you're making things like playing games a hassle, that's just not something that you want to go through. It's not something that you wouldn't even bother if it's going to make it just a hassle. That's why people prefer playing games on the PC or going to Good Old Games, just all these other non-restricting services.
Yeah.
But yes, so far we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky. Yeah, it's like making you get good. You get people coming back when they love your service and what you're offering. And for Microsoft, they're offering a really problematic service, not offering a lot of games. Sony, they're basically just doing their strategy from PS3 and upping it with like a new console. And Nintendo is just like, okay, we'll just make games, and whatever the online stuff is, it'll come afterwards. And then, it's a really weird time because it's the first time just that like I've never really been as apathetic to an E3 as this one has really given me, where it's like, okay, I'm not really excited for any games except for what Nintendo's been showing, and a lot of those are like still big franchise games, and it's almost become like a drain in terms of like, okay, if I really want to see how not far the industry has gone, I'll just go to E3 and see like a lot of the lame stuff that they really don't, that they've already either showed or want to reiterate, or just for some reason want to try it out again. I mean, I'm not really excited for a hell of a lot, and E3 has kind of gone down with me as the years have gone by.
Mm-hmm. A lot of it just can be just promoted through other means rather than E3. But it's just
I have faith that the industry will definitely bounce back, and then with this whole dick measuring of like console standards and we need to get better graphics, that people will finally have to say like, okay, now we just have to make actual good games. And with this, like, I'm not excited for Call of Duty, I'm not excited for Battlefield, I'm not really excited for Assassin's Creed. There's a whole lot I'm not really excited for. And I feel like this is going to be maybe the most turbulent year, just because of the fact that, there's not a whole lot of games in terms of their importance versus the supposed importance imposed by Sony and Microsoft with the new generation of consoles, and it's just aggravating. That like, okay, we really should have gone past this point, but we're still stuck talking about DRM, talking about these really incredibly stupid systems of punishing paying customers for their loyalty rather than trying to win over pirates. And it's just too bad.
Yeah, I hear you. At this point, you think we'd be past this. Why do we have to bring this sort of archaic discussion up already? But we'll have to see for next time. But other than that, did you want to get to the questions here, my good sir?
Absolutely. It's I've got the questions right up here. So let's jump on into it. And to rank the E3, I'd probably say 4 or 3 out of 10. Not really. Didn't really blow my socks off. But anyway, let's jump in with Black Magic, who asks, "Hey gentlemen, what genre of video gaming do you think may be oversaturated or overexposed in this generation? Personally, I think we've seen an overabundance of first-person shooters that play very similar to each other, and I completely agree. The first-person shooter is the biggest problem. Not problem, but the biggest violator of just being oversaturating the industry, where we have like Killzone, Battlefield, Call of Duty, Medal of Honor. They all look the same, and it's just getting to a point where it's impossible to tell which game is which until you look at the front of the cover. Mm-hmm. And I honestly don't know what in the world maybe the next generation will have like an overabundance of point-and-click adventure games. Who knows? Or I do remember that the last generation was like an overabundance of platformers and other sort of like a lot of mascot-driven kind of third-person action games. But I'll have to wait and see. But for this generation, I definitely think that I agree. First person is definitely kind of the big one.
Yeah, definitely that, and just like the over serious games, or cover-based shooters. They're definitely ones that broken the mold and kind of done things in a way to mix things up and make them more exciting and more strategic than just pointing and shooting a gun. Like Binary Domain does a lot of interesting things with the third-person genre, which I liked a lot, and just a lot of ways you can go about attacking enemies either from the legs or shooting them in the head, and just using those unique mechanics, like shooting robots in the head and then the robots will start attacking the other robots. That's always fun. It's just making things a bit more interesting, and rather than having them just be similar to each other, and at least having a good cover mechanic is always key. I always thought that I think Conviction to this day still has one of the best cover systems out there.
Yeah, Binary Domain is just one of those games that I didn't think I would love. Even though you kept recommending it to me, I didn't think I would love it as much as I did. But damn it, if I was not proven hella wrong. And it is so beautiful. And it's kind of like Equilibrium, the movie with Christian Bale and Sean Bean, where it's this fascinating look at, it's mostly an action story, but there are these introspective moments of humanity, and it does give you a little chance to think, and that's what I love about Binary. Ni hao.
Oh man,
such a good game, and I just love the interaction with all of the characters, and I love just I can't remember what the French cyborg, the French robot was called, but I love his character too, just because he's just like imagine if C-3PO could really kick ass and was French. That would be him, because he's just like so nice and so charming, but he can also just tear it up with the best.
To get high enough kind of loyalty to everybody, you could end up saving one of the characters that ends up biting the dust near the end, which I found out. But it was you have to go through this process of doing it in order for like a certain character to show up and just prevent that situation from happening. But the way it kind of unfolded was pretty interesting as well.
Mm-hmm. It's third-person action games. There's also been an abundance of like our Uncharted, Splinter Cell, and you can find a lot, but a lot of them have been like really, really good. And I just think that there have been. Well, to be fair, there's also like Quantum something. I can't remember what the name of it was called, but it was like one released by Konami or Capcom, and it was just absolute garbage. It was like the poor man's Gears of War if he was also addicted to it.
I can't say I've played it. I think I've seen like a minute of gameplay footage, but yeah, it looked like a very, very cut and paste third-person shooter. Didn't have much of a soul.
Oh yeah, Mm-hmm. And speaking of one of the worst games I've played this generation is the Terminator Salvation video game. I am not joking. You run away from a giant Terminator, and it takes about 10 seconds to do that. And then before that scene, there's a loading screen for about 30 seconds. It's like the loading screen was longer than the level you designed. That is poor design mechanics, and like try to have this interesting cover-based shooter, but you only have 4 weapons, and they're the standard pistol, assault rifle, shotgun, rocket launcher, and it's so bad that they don't even have the licensing for the right stuff. Like Christian Bale did not allow his likeness to be used, and it's for the tie-in video game that stars his character. So like they get this guy who doesn't even really resemble Christian Bale at all. It's like the Men in Black video game back in when Men in Black 2 was being released, where they had Agent J and Agent K look nothing like Tommy Lee Jones or Will Smith, and like Will Smith had like Jerry curls and this weird mustache this weird goatee going on, and it's just this weird thing. Like you want to make a video game based on the movie, then get some of the licensing for the stuff. And like that's one of the worst games I played this generation. And I'm glad I did, because that's just like, okay, this is the low bar. Now I got a lot of things to compare it to.
Makes you appreciate other games that is not that. At least we gotta play Pepsi Man one day.
Oh yeah,
to really appreciate the greatness of product placement in a video game. That intro, man.
Yeah. I would love to. What game would you like to see? What type of genre would you like to see reemerge in terms of that have been kind of ignored?
One. There are many genres, my good man.
Yes, indeed.
Text-based adventures. That'd probably be the only thing I could think of, just to see this $60 game just be just text-based. And that says like this is AAA gaming at its best.
I mean, it's expensive as hell, but it's a long-lasting game. And look at just how beautiful that font is. You could just like write letters to everyone all day, every day. Just like, look at this font, isn't it awesome?
Spent researching a standout font that is completely new. Licensing a new font. New font names.
Now. I would love to see the reemergence of like educational games, the edutainment games, where it's like Number Blaster or like one of those games where it's like, hurry, you have to spell out this word to defeat the bad guy, or it's like you need 4/5 of this solution to get to power up this jetpack. How many do you have if you have 2/3 and 1/3 over here? It's like, I would love to see like Rockstar take on that, but like set that in the GTA universe where it's like, I need to shoot up 1/5 of heroin. How much do I have if I have 1/10 and 2/20? Will I have enough to keep me buzzed for all day long? It would just be.
I just thought of one genre I'd like to see make a comeback in games is the games with the like live action cutscenes. I forgot what they're called, but they're like Night Trap or like Tex Murphy. Those type of games.
Yeah. Ooh, those would be fun. Like that would be a good use of the Kinect. Finally, it's like, okay, like hurry, swipe the screen to get rid of the bad guy in this haunted house.
Scooby-Doo game. Surprised they haven't made a Scooby-Doo Kinect game. Very surprised. You get the pet Scooby, and when you finish a mission, you get to catch a Scooby Snack mini game when you try to grab all the Scooby Snacks, trying to avoid other healthy foods like carrots and stuff.
Ugh. Yeah. And you also get to pull the mask off at the end, and it's always Old Man Jenkins.
That is right.
There was
Old Man Jenkins.
And like, have you seen like there was someone like drew up a pie chart of like why the reasons why Scooby-Doo villains are arrested. It's like 90% of the time it's like people they're arrested for scaring people off their property to sell the land, and then the 10% of the time was like the crimes that they actually did. And God bless Scooby. Scooby-Doo is one of those weird phenomenons where it's like, okay, it's not exactly well written, but just for some reason the archetypes of the characters are just so endearing in the situation of like, oh, okay, we're gonna go around and solve mysteries with a talking dog. That just like people are just like universal. Like, yeah, I like that. That's cool.
It's just a lot of not the traditional elements you think that would make for a good show. They make it work, and exactly, it's just a whole endearing part of it, which is what made it just a hit, pretty much. Just a lot of the Hanna-Barbera weirdness.
The canned laugh animation whenever anybody would laugh, whenever would make a joke, where it's like like Scooby-Doo just got caught in a cave. It was like, oh, hurry! We have to save Scooby from the clutches of the evil villain. And they shout, you go like, can't we just save a sandwich from the fridge? And they would be like, ha ha ha! It's like, I know that's not real laughter. No one would laugh at that joke.
A lot of the crossovers with either would it be the Addams Family or the Harlem Globetrotters or Three Stooges.
Batman and Robin. I swear Rosie O'Donnell was actually on one of the episodes. I swear to you, she was somewhere in one of those episodes where it's like, okay, in what instance would this be a useful celebrity cameo to have? Like, okay, Batman, okay, maybe solving a mystery. Harlem Globetrotters, maybe it's like, okay, they got a basketball game to get to, and then a mystery thing happens. But like Rosie O'Donnell, it's gonna be like, okay, a comedian's here, and she's got to make funny jokes, or else she can't find her career. That's the mystery. Let's go. And it's just funny, like who they thought would be like the really big pushers for like how great the series would be.
That's the only ones I probably would think of. That's the most saturated there. Either the first person shooters, obviously, and the some of the third person cover based shooting. I don't know what's been. I guess it's sort of been still the same currently now with the first person, and just overall doom and gloom type of games. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the next question. Thank you, Black Magic, for that. We got one here.
Thank you, Black Magic.
Pancho Cheesecake. that sounds interestingly good. In a alternate dimension.
Ooh, is that just like a block of cheese with a little sombrero on it?
That'd be interesting cake design. You know, you see cake boss. They do all sorts of designs, but it's all just the simplistic things that just really stand out the most, rather than just trying too hard. AAA cake.
Mm-hmm.
Don't.
Yeah, ooh, the EA cake would just be like deflating, like in the middle of the show. The Xbox cake would just be like locked in a metallic cage, and then we'd have like the Suda51 cake, which would just be like an inverse cake that just led into a demon portal, where it's like, oh wow, like I really want to try that one, but I'm afraid I'll go crazy if I try to eat.
The question we have here from the Pancho Cheesecake is, what's your biggest pet peeve in video games? In a video game. Pet peeves.
It's
definitely some unnecessary loading screens. I always thought that I found this incredibly. I don't know if it was probably was done on purpose, but the only thing when I was playing Catherine, the only really consequence of you just failing at the puzzles and dying is just having to go back from your last save and then going through the process of either tapping the B button to skip the cutscene leading into that puzzle. That's the only really unnecessary way to go back, rather than just have a checkpoint from where you started. And the real challenge and consequence of being is not solving the puzzle. I always thought that's something that's a lot better than just having to reload the save and go through that process, which is like it takes a good 2 or 3 minutes just to get back from where you started once you lose all your retries, because you get retries on puzzles. You can either start from the very beginning on if there's other checkpoints you can reach, or you can start off from where you left off if you messed up or died. I always thought that was always weird place checkpoints, and the way they handle saves is one of my pet peeves. But not so much recently. A lot of recent games we do have loading screens, but they blend it in with what's going on in the game, and not just have a screen that says loading. Loading.
Yeah. Like there's Dead Space 2, which disguised as loading screens, or at the very least, like when there's loading screens going up, like have something interesting to say during them. Like, if you have these two combinations of magic together, you can create this, or like a little bit of the mythology or backstory, like Skyrim has when its loading screens are going on. Like, the people of this tribe do this thing, or what have you. The one that gets me the most is when there are just horrible maps. I hate when you don't... When there's like... I love Chaos Theory, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, but that map is just so frustrating to use. Where it's like, okay, I don't know the orientation of this all. It only indicates which room I'm in, not like which level or what direction I'm looking at. And like the same thing goes with... any other Skyrim, definitely like Skyrim, where it's like, okay, it's kind of hard to tell what's important and what's not, how to label things off as unimportant, and you gotta figure out and fine tune that to get it right. So I'd probably say, like, if you don't have a good mapping system and you have a big world to explore, or half of the battle is relying on figuring out where you're supposed to go, then you definitely need. Then it definitely knocks you down a couple of pegs.
Especially if it's a linear game and you still don't know where to go. That's kind of bad design, and the map doesn't help either. That kind of sucks. Yeah, I know we talked about Chaos Theory in the last episode, and then that's like as much as I love Chaos Theory, that the only kind of bad thing about it was you only really bring up it's just the map. It was even transitioned over to Double Agent as well. So I hardly ever used the map. I always explored and figured out and where I can go and where I can't go, and I always rather than just use the map, I just explored, and then when I replay it, I hardly ever use the map because I kind of remember from memory, from experience on if I went the wrong way and backtracked, I always just kind of knew where to go. And I know there's some levels where there are definitely you aren't really sure where you should go first or where you should try out first. So you just kind of always have to either just use your explorations rather than just look at the map, and which is that's one of the least worked out parts of the game.
It's like you can give me a sticky camera that can attach to any surface, but you can't give me a damn map with a north, south, east, and west directional compass.
It's kind of bad that the Deadly Premonition map was probably a lot better than Chaos Theory map. At least I knew where I was going. I had to like look across. I had to remember like where to go because you can't zoom out that far. You just have to move it across this kind of path here where you can't really zoom out and see what's ahead of you where you're at. So I just kind of I always put it in my head. All right, go left and then go right, and then in the end I always get lost again. But it was that's definitely one where I was glad I did a side quest to get that walkie-talkie early on. Just teleport from one area that I visited to the next.
It certainly, yeah, absolutely, and it's. I mean, there's a bunch of little pet peeves that get on my nerves, but I'm definitely going to say maps is probably the biggest one
for you and
for me. I mean, there's like invisible walls. There's
maps for you and just and checkpoints for me.
Yeah, I mean checkpoints. That's also a big one when the auto save checkpoints. Like, it only auto saved about 2 seconds after you started the mission, and then you're 98% done, and then you die, and you got to go back all the way to the beginning.
That's the worst. Yeah, we got another. So we got another question here from.
Yeah, another from.
Read that one.
Sure. It's from Pancho Cheesecake again, and he goes, "Are video games basic art or high art?" I would probably say it's an interesting discussion because art is so subjective, and it's so. It's such a fluid term in terms of what you describe. First, art, I think, is anything you put you put thinking into that is for a non-practical purpose. So, like, roller coasters would be art, or just kicking a can down the street would be art. Just like you're doing things that you're performing mental tasks without actually doing it for a practical reason. And I know it's kind of really overgeneralized, but I think like specific answers are just really bad. And so, I think video games are art. High art, I think if they try to actually have something meaningful to say, and just like The Walking Dead or Bioshock Infinite about the option of choice and just how we're bound to the choices that we make, like that's a very interesting thing that tries to come across. But then again, there's like stuff like Bayonetta, which is just like it's also art, but it's also like the art of how much ass can I possibly kick in a single day?
I just think that those games, I think that just putting out the game just so complex and just that one that just leaves a lot of room for discussion. I think any type of like that, anything like that is, I think it's art in my book. That there's so much that goes into it that we don't completely know so far because we're not really into that field there. But just to think on from we start from the beginning until like the very end, it's just so overwhelmingly just complex how games are made, and just seeing how the final product goes out it's just always baffles my mind. Just like, man, you start off with an idea and you get this whole game, and just done by a whole group of people that make it happen. Like anything can go wrong, but it always ends up going so well, because you're so used to getting games, but you never really think about just how much work it takes to get it done. And just anything could go wrong, but just a whole work group of people get it done. Just it's amazing to see how it all just turns out. I think that's just art in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and just I love seeing those behind the scenes bonus features that you have on like God of War 2 or for Halo 2, where they come up with the behind the scenes of like people getting the game ready from conception to the production elements, and like just to seeing it all take place. Like that's like really, I love that kind of dedication stuff where you actually see the people behind the game just working so hard and so diligently, and it's really wonderful just to see. The people behind it all work, to their working on their craft, and like small stuff like that, and concept art and concept videos. Just, I love that kind of stuff. Just seeing it behind the scenes, and just these people work very, very hard to make art.
Yeah,
and,
it made me
I
appreciate it a bit more recently when I beat Tomb Raider. At the end of the game, at the credits, I think they have, I don't know, but they had pictures of the staff, so they had the names listed out, and they just had the pictures. It seemed like they had pictures for almost everybody who worked on the game. Through showing throughout the credits, that made you appreciate more on just all the work that went into making just the new Tomb Raider there.
The new Tomb Raider, that's awesome, and just having the DMC Devil May Cry concept art. I love concept art more than anything else. Like if you show me like really cool badass concept art, even if it never mixed into the game, just like having these wild ideas that they come up with are just something that I really do love to see.
Exactly. So thanks for the question there, Pancha Cheesecake.
Yep.
And as we
thank you. And I think we have one more question.
As we roll out the last question here from D Hood 90. That's right. And they said, hey guys, in the arcade, what controller input device did you prefer at the arcades, and which ones did you just hate with a passion? From going back from like the good old days of putting coins in the machine, I never was a huge fan of just those regular sticks there it was a stick on the left and then the buttons on the right. I never could get a hang of that. I never was much of one of those control. I guess you call them game pads or whatever, but like they use for fighting games. But I always preferred either a controller there, like an Xbox controller that way. There's been a lot of them. Just either the peripheral ones, where the light gun games, like was that Time Crisis, or just the from the ones to, like the Mario Kart arcade machines. Those are always fun. I can never think of one that I didn't like. I guess the one I could think that I never thought it really worked for me was they had when I used to go to the arcade, they had like this kind of sniper game where you try to protect the president, so you're just shooting down these terrorists with they had this whole just a fake sniper rifle you could look into through the scope and at the screen. Every time I pointed right at the guy's head, and it never worked. It always shot at me in the chest or in the leg. So it was always, I hated that with a passion because it never was accurate for me.
Yeah, that's. I vaguely remember playing the sniper game at Dave and Buster's, and that one was just frustrating because like it wasn't 1-to-1 aiming. So you just like you would for some cases you would like turn all the way left and it only like budge a little bit. But if you just like moved a smidgen right, it would completely throw like the aiming reticle on the other side of the screen. So it's like this weird sort of art of trying to figure out like, okay, where's the best sweet spot for sniping this guy. And in terms of like really I don't know if D-Hood is talking about arcade, just like arcade games in our actual arcades, like Mortal Kombat and Galaga, or like arcade as in arcade games in the home console. But I always liked the really simple Galaga sort of like one stick, two buttons sort of setup where it's like, okay, it's really easy to get a hang of, really easy to have fun. Or Mortal Kombat where it's like, okay, you have these 4 buttons and you kind of know how to fight, and then like those are fine and I like those, but the ones I really did not like. Oh, also I got to mention, big shout out to the Donkey Konga drums, which like, okay, those drums were shit, but just I like the fact that they just like had so much faith in the game that they just like put those out there. But the ones I hate with a passion, definitely those the golf game where you have that big trackball that you move it back and then move it forward, but the fact that you're doing it with your entire hand means that you have no accuracy whatsoever. So that was fun to do. Well,
definitely. My goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and it's just like got to find the right device for inputting controller. Just like the simpler, the better. And for God's sakes, don't ever get a tracking ball for your game because that just is annoying.
Don't get me started on that. Go all day long.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's just input devices you prefer at the arcades. Yeah, just like simpler the better. Just because like you then have a good grasp of what you have on hand, and just what games that you can like really, because it's like universal. Like figuring out, okay, I got this and these movements, like the X-Men arcade game, where it's like, okay, well, I know the basic layout. We'll have fun with that. But like when you add more complex controller schemes for your game, that just makes it more. It means that you have to give the audience more time to learn the controls, which is I find very frustrating.
The simpler the controls, the better. You just need to merely focus on the gameplay mechanics rather than just fighting the controllers. That's something you don't want to have there. You want to make sure you just have you set out certain instances on just teaching the gamer on what you can do, and just figuring it out from there rather than just fighting the controller in the actual game. But yeah.
I mean, that's one of the biggest things that I was worried about with the Wii U is just the fact the controller is okay. It's the thumbsticks, but they are the thumbsticks are above the buttons, and I always wondered how that would feel, just like trying to play a first-person shooter or something like that, where you don't have the best controls. And I haven't played a Wii U yet, so I don't really have any experience in terms of understanding how that process works. But it would just it would definitely take a while, and that kind of learning curve would be a little bit difficult before I actually started to enjoy the game.
I know that when I played a little bit of just the Wii a while back, it took me a while to get used to that. Yeah, especially because I think I played a little bit of Red Steel, and I just could not get a hold of the aiming on that. I was like way off.
Ooh. It's Red Steel. Like that was the one where it's like they tried to make like the really experimental, they really tried to attempt something creative before the technology was really there.
Well, at least they tried. That's all that matters. Got to give them a pat in the back. You're trying.
Yes. They got to give them a gold star, and we'll put Red Steel up on the fridge. Yeah, we certainly do appreciate whenever they try to do something new, but it doesn't always work. Yeah, so thank you very much, D Hood.
Well, yeah, that's
so we got D Hood. Thank you very much for sending in.
Definitely. So,
is there a delay on my end or your end? Just because we seem to have different, very different segments of time go by. Damn this Wi-Fi, Belkin! You struck again.
Yeah, it's been pretty bad. I hardly ever use this laptop anymore because I don't know what it is, but it's like the adapter there is kind of messing up, so it's not, it either has a very low latency or it's just not picking up all the internet speed than it usually does. So I've been looking into getting a new laptop pretty soon. So sooner or later we won't be on a huge delay. So yeah, it's horrible trying to watch a stream because it's always it's always buffering. So yeah, I know.
I got you. Well, if anyone can hear me, welcome to the 139th episode of Bloody Thumbs, where we're just starting up. Wait, we are just starting up, right? That would just be great. We're just we had a conversation 2 hours delayed, but we just have such good rhythmic beat that somehow we just managed to make it work.
I think that's been the case for early on when we couldn't figure out some of the technology aspects early on in the podcast. That probably was the case.
It certainly is just one of those moments where that was just okay, you know what? Even if things don't always go right, even if we have Belkin intruding on us, at least we always have a good repartee, and we always make it through to the end.
It is,
and this is the end of the episode.
It's always an indication. We do the questions. It's near the end there. So yeah, we had some interesting discussions early on. We just did kind of good half an hour discussing movies, and then just start off the show from there into E3, and then some of the games or lack thereof we're looking forward to, and just kind of the future of the next gen there, which could be either good or bad. We'll see. Who knows? A lot of opinions can change over time, but we'll definitely keep it on track there with our updates on that. And I will definitely be playing a bit more of Catherine, and probably getting into Dark Souls and just other games that I have in the backlog here. I'll be looking to check out here. DMC is definitely on the list there, so I'll definitely play that eventually. I did like the demo a lot. I know it wasn't it's not indicative of the entire product, but I like the art style and just the whole concept of the game. So we'll be giving that a shot eventually. And in Far Cry 3 as well. There was a moment where I was into playing shooters, but definitely a shooter to check out. That's one of those hidden gems. Is Singularity. That's a good one.
Ooh, yeah, I heard nothing but good stuff about that game
weeks ago, and I played it, and I really enjoyed it a lot. It was cool, first-person shooter with time travel mechanics, and it's just a lot of fun. Enjoyed that. So this has been episode 137 there, people. So be sure to check us out on the usual links there on spill.com, and we gotta make it more clear. I think eventually. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if anything ever does happen and we're not on Spill anymore for whatever reason, I got to let the people know. You can always check us out on bloodythumbs.wordpress.com. That is you'll get the episodes right then and there. That's where it goes through I post that. I post it there all the time. I don't think anyone visits it, but I'll be sure to put it in the links there. It's just something you can put in your favorites bar. If you ever, never see an episode on there anywhere, but it will be on there. I can guarantee that, and that links in with the iTunes as well. So other than that, we got the iTunes there, and also the Better Gaming Bureau, the BGB.com. And I will say, I gotta announce this early on. June 26th, we were saying Fight Night. Yeah. It's gonna be me and Christian from the Better Gaming Bureau. Watch me as I humiliate him in Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat.
What's going on?
1-on-1, mano a mano.
Hello.
The epicness of this announcement has cut off our communication.
Hello.
My goodness. As I'm typing this out to see what happens. The epicness.
I didn't hear what you said for the past 30 seconds.
If you can hear me now.
Okay, yeah. I for some reason I just cut out. So now that we understand the delicate nature of our Wi-Fi connection, what was it that you're saying that you're happy to announce?
Mark the calendars, ladies and gentlemen. I repeat this again for you. I know that CH didn't hear this, but in case you listeners out there didn't hear it, I will say this now. June 26th, Fight Night. I don't know what the time is. Live streams going on with the Better Gaming Bureau. Myself here, Splitter, aka 47. Is going to go one-on-one with Christian from the Better Gaming Bureau on Mortal Kombat, mano a mano. Mortal Kombat here. Don't know what the stipulations are, but I will announce my two fighters that will be going in the tag team match against Christian on the Better Gaming Bureau for Mortal Kombat. I will tease it. The first character, we got Striker. Striker is on the lineup here. So the second person is a mystery opponent that will be announced the day of the fight. That's all I will say.
Ooh, this is WWE nonsense right here. Here comes the pain.
I'm gonna get
That's what you are.
It's my promo. June 26th. Hashtag June 26th, people. Hashtag, baby.
Be there or be square, brother.
Announcement here. Other than that, any final words there, CH Gorog?
Check us out on Twitter. I am CH_Gorog. My friend over here is Splinter47. We are on iTunes, Phil, all that jazz. Bloody Thumbs, WordPress. We're also on Better Gaming Bureau, BGB, and we're got a subsection there. You can also just check us out on Twitter because I actually had a good repartee with Laura Foy where I made a joke about Popeye and she had the Sailor Man and she didn't get it, and so that's about as big of a celebrity hog as I possibly can be. It's like, well, I'm going to milk that for all it's worth and see if she'll ever look at me again.
Well, yeah, you and I already had 2 celebrity encounters, so I don't know.
Joe Bot and Foy.
Yeah,
I told you, man, we'd get there one day.
Mine went off as well or as worse as yours, but I think we're on equal footing here. We can arrange something, maybe a double date.
I like how we're kidding ourselves in terms of we think that these women will actually see us again in their lifetimes.
You're being too pessimistic here. Bloody Thumbs, just Control Bot will be on there.
I know, we're good-looking men, and we are... Yeah, Chobot, okay, she's an intelligent, lovely lady, and Laura Foy is as well, and so, if they just want to come on to our podcast and just guest star, we'd love to have them.
Absolutely. Other than that, yes.
Mm-hmm. I am... So, that is the end of our episode. Do we have anything else to add, or
that is about it there. Be sure to... I'll also link it in the show notes to check out the YouTube channel. I know I don't post that much. I only just been posting the podcast recently, but be sure to keep it locked for CH's channel. There, he's always got something interesting going on there with those Let's Plays of Devil May Cry there.
Yep. Devil May Cry and Crimson Skies. Trying to finish that up, and yeah. So we're looking forward to finishing that up.
We liked watching them as well, so we look forward to that. So thank everyone for listening there, and hope you enjoyed this episode. So it's episode 137. So I'm Splinter47 here, signing off, and have a good night.
Bye-bye, everyone. I'm CH Gorog, and we'll see you next time.